Hello. It's time for me to talk to you about mini magic class. And um, it's currently, for me, it's early July 2022, which means that in the United States, which was where I have chosen to move myself to and live for many years, um, is happening is there's this Supreme Court thing happening. So I thought, since they've making it difficult for people to get access to the abortions. Um, I would like to talk about the magic of, and this is what I'm qualified to do, the magic of um, the the gate of life and birth, which is also the same gate that we go through. So when we enter the world, we are entering through a magical gate, and it is magical. It's crazy magical. Birth is crazy magical. We enter through a gate where we didn't exist on the planet, and then we grew and went through this gate. And when we went through this gate, we became a human primate being. Or, if you want to think about it another way, we became an ensouled body, an ensouled animal. And that is really special. There's something very special and cool about becoming an ensouled animal. And if we go along through our life and come to the other side of that gate, so think of that gate as you come in, but then when you come back to it, it's death. That's the same gate. And that gate opens up when it's time, and very hard to go through that gate without it being some kind of your time. That gate opens, and we leave behind this animal body, which has lived that life. We let it fall to the earth. It separates from us, and it composts into the earth. And when it does so, the the body, which is no longer ensouled, Soul. I'm trying to spell here, but I'm trying to make you understand. It's not the insole of your shoe, it's your body, which is ensouled with a spirit. And when that body drops to the ground, and however it rots into the ground, frankly, I'm looking into the water burial. I'd like the compost too, but the water burial looks cool. That body deteriorates and particleizes and becomes, oh, what is the word we use for it? It's not the beautiful dead. It becomes, we call it those who remain. And that's the spirit that you encounter in a graveyard. When you go to a graveyard, you're encountering the spirit of those who remain. And that story, all the stories of your life remain in that body. And as it particleizes, your story becomes a part of the living world. And if you hadn't got born, then that story would not become a part of the living world. And it adds to, so whatever you did, whatever bite of ice cream you took, and it was the delicious bite, I like ice cream, whatever kindness you brought to someone, whatever stupid dumbass thing you did, and just to characterize it, there is no judgment about that. You're going to do stupid dumbass things. It's okay. Not only are you forgiven, it's like we expect it. The whole world expects it. It's okay. We all do it. It's part of the experience of being here. All of that goes into the earth. It becomes a part of the living story. And it's literally like a library floating around everywhere. A library of the animal, in our case, right now, the animal experience. This is what happens when you go into an old growth forest. You're going into a library of the tree life and experience. It lays down, it composts in, and you drink in that story of that tree. And that's why That's one of the reasons why it's so healing to go into an old growth forest. But the gate is really important. And um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about what it's like for the soul to go through this whole process. Now, what you are doing right now is you're having your life, and what you don't maybe quite realize is you're literally time traveling, as we said, mentioned another time, but you're also writing a five-dimensional book where all of it's like going into a movie where you can smell and taste and hear. You're writing that book, and that book is published here with those who remain, but it's also what you take with you when your soul goes over to the other side, and that book goes into the library of this planet's report. uh, some people call that the akashic records. And the Akashic Records, you can look that up, also has more than just life on the planet the report on. But if you, like, I'm a painter, so my paintings go there. They go into a library. My thoughts, my dreams, my hugs, my hopes, my sex, my eating, it all goes into the library. So someone says, "Oh, I'm going to go, you know what? I just like to have that a feeling of a bite of ice cream." And so they go to the libraries and they look up bite of ice cream, and they see a strawberry one on a Wednesday, and the sun was up and it was a little too hot, and the bite comes into their mouth. They choose that one, and then they get to experience that bite. So the whole thing about on the other side after having lived is so beautiful because your story is not judged, it's just experience. It's like I want to know when you do a dumbass thing and you're filled with shame, how you crawl out of that shame. So you might look that up. Even the notion of shame, which is unheard of and impossible to experience on the other side, um, is a treat. It's like, oh, shame. Fun. Some of us are doing this. We're coming here to have that experience even deeper, and we do that because we're kind of crazy. So what happens I'm kind of fascinated by the death one, and also I was over at my friend's house today and I was talking to her. Her mother is 90, very old, 99, and old people in the culture now, they are being so well cared for that we're not helping them to go into the spiritual state of death. And so that's a state you have to go into if you're having a slow death. And so some people got it, some people don't, but some people need help. And so I was helping her mother with that problem of like, how do I die? How do I let go? Um, a lot of religions are just about that, right? They're just helping people get used to the idea that that transition is kind of something you actually have to do. Um, so that's why I was talking about death so much. But right now, I want to talk to you about what it's like to come here as a soul. I know the Dalai Lama says something like it's as impossible for a soul to encounter a body and get into this planet as it is for, I don't know what it is. I'm gonna misquote him, but it's like a turtle swimming in the ocean to rise up and go through the a lifesaver hole of a lifesaver or something like that. Sorry, it's bad quoting. But he's like, it doesn't happen very much. It's hard to get here, even though there's almost 8 billion of us. It's still hard to in soul here. And so what happens is that when a soul gets interested or is going to fill a contract with people to come in and be their baby, people want a baby. Well, what they're getting is a human. You're not going to get a baby. Babies last like what, 3 months, maybe 6 months tops before they're not babies anymore. What you're getting is a huge project of humans. And when you've either contracted with a soul to do that, or a soul just is wandering around going, can I get in? Can I? It's my time. What about you? What about you? What about you? Hey, there's some people having sex. Maybe I can get in there. Um, you know, that's okay. That's all just fine for everybody involved. The soul, for me, when you have a contract, I can see the soul hovering around someone. It looks like a little ball of light, and it'll have a particular color. Sometimes it's a little kaleidoscopic, but sometimes it's like really like, you're blue. This is blue. This is a blue baby. Baby that is gonna come from blue energy. It's floating around your head, or white, or pink, or kaleidoscopic. And I see that floating around their head, and I look at them, and I'll sometimes say, a baby wants to come in, and they'll go, I don't want a baby, and then the baby will go away. The spirit, the soul will go away. And then I've seen it happen where they come back like 10 years later when people are in their 30s, which is a very late time to have a baby, but go ahead. There's technology. They come back, and then the agreement is made that we'll do this, or they just slip in, right? And that's when that little spirit that was floating around you, I won't be able to see anymore. I'll just sort of see. It's interesting. I see a sort of thing around the face, and I see that the belly has gone into a different mode. I can't actually tell you what the visuals are as much as this feeling of like swelling up. I get a feeling of swelling up in their body. And then the baby has gone into the womb for however long. Okay. So why? Why? Well, because it's kind of like a huge, massive, it's sort of like, I don't know, the people who want to go into space, or the people who climb Mount Everest, or the people who dive to the bottom of the ocean, or any kind of major adventure that you can have here on Earth, or you're going to go deeply into the most powerful relationship that just tears up your life and makes it fascinating, or whatever. Anything that would be super exciting, that's the kind of soul that comes to Earth into a human form. And that's the kind of soul you are. You are a massive adventurer. And we all did that. That's what we have in common, is that we're all massive adventurers. We're just going to go for it. And so that adventure begins when you start floating around somebody with a uterus, and you go, can I get in there? Is the contract time, or is it just time for me to get in there? And there is no worries about how far the soul gets. The soul doesn't care, um, because there's no time, there's no worries. You can try again and again. You might be trying 150 times simultaneously, right? But that soul comes in, floats around. There's like bargaining in that floating around. There's like timing in that floating around. There's announcements in that soul floating around. And the soul and the person with the uterus are agreeing to make a gate. And they're agreeing to the gate of life. So the moment the soul comes into the uterus, the Catholics aren't wrong. Life begins, right? Sure, it does. Why not? Who cares? That sounds good. Like, Catholics. I don't know why the Catholics are like. Can I just take a moment to talk about Catholics? And the reason I'm going to talk about Catholics is because they're kind of running this country, this law right now. They're having a heyday. And I'm also a Catholic. Not very good at it. I'm more of a witch than a Catholic, much more of a witch than a Catholic. But I was baptized, and I was whatever the other thing is you got to go through where you get the, confirmed. And I had the other thing. I had all the rituals and all the rites. And so I've got the burden of Catholicism. And I'll just say, like, my religion is Catholicism is a death cult. It just prays death and torture and death, torture and death, torture and death. Now, this is the way Catholics get us ready for our own death, by looking at the cross all the time and being like, Jesus died, and here's the way he died, the signs of the cross. Here, like, oh my God, every Sunday you gotta watch. He went through this bad thing, and then this bad thing, and then this bad thing. He's like, Jesus is like, why are you fixated on this? But it is trying to train people for death. It was at a time when people died really, really early. And I just want to say, why do we need to be so controlling about the gate of birth if all we care about is how and when people die, which seems to generally be seen as a horrible, nasty thing that you have to go through, like almost a punishment? So, yeah, I don't get it. I don't get that religion. I was raised in it. I made all the vows. And like, why? Let go of death. You might be able to accept birth and no birth and the death at birth, that kind of thing. All right, so I said that. But here's what I want to say. It's like, if the soul comes into the uterus, gets that far, And even if it doesn't, everybody's happy. The soul's happy. The uterus is happy. The mother might not be. Personally, when I was pregnant, the last thing I wanted was this alien being infesting my life, because that's what it felt like. It felt like a trick. I don't know if we had a contract, but I felt like an alien tricked me in. I was going to eventually have this thing explode out of my chest like the Alien movie. So I have no sentimentality because I know what it's like on the other side. And I know babies are just people. And when they get here, they pretty much become people right away. So that's what happens. And then it goes as long as it goes. So either through actively choosing an abortion, which is your right, people with uteruses, or, and also, by the way, I would like us to all stop being biased against men in this process, because most men go through abortions along with the person with uterus. And I'm hearing a lot of bias against men. And all the men I know who have gone through an abortion process were right there by the side of the person with the uterus. And they went through all of the ups and downs. They didn't go through the physical thing, which is real and intense. But whatever. They were born without a uterus. Like, why are we blaming them? It makes no sense. So can we calm the rhetoric around this and blaming men, and start just blaming Homo sapiens who are crazy sometimes with their storylines? So, but back to the thing. So the baby comes in, or the spirit comes into the thing, and it becomes a zygote. It's not a baby. And then you decide to have an abortion. Good for you. Abortion is ancient. Abortion is happening. Abortion is medicine. Abortion is fucking sacred. So good for you if that's what you wanted. You found a way, like we have the entire time we've had uteruses, to let that spirit go. And you know what that spirit thinks about that? Yay, that was fun. I got to be in a little zygote. I got to be in a little thing. Now, until the spirit, the baby body grows like to about 8 months, or I don't actually know. It's like when the quickening comes, they start kicking. They don't spend hardly any time in there. The quickening comes when the baby starts moving and starts doing its thing. And the baby at that point, that actual flesh in that body, is the woman, or pardon me, the person with uterus. It actually is still that person. So the person with the uterus has a part of themselves growing, and there's a spirit that comes in every once in a while and goes, I'm here, I'm doing it, now I'm out, now I'm here, but I'm doing it. And until that spirit gets born, uh, that gate of life and birth doesn't open. Literally, the birthing, however it's done, which is fine any way it's done, through C-section or through vaginal birthing, that gate of life and birth has not opened. Literally, the os expanding or the surgery opening the womb is the gate. Okay? And once that baby is born, it's exciting because you've ensouled a human body. You fully ensouled it for 2 or 3 hours a day, and then you get out of there because the baby's supposed to sleep, and the sleeping is them not being ensouled. They go on their little tether away from the body, and they have their, soul life like we all do every night, and then they come back in. So that soul pops in and out for the whole lifetime. And one thing I want you to understand from my own experience is that when you're born, you're still that person with the uterus. So until my mother died, I was my mother. I was just wandering around, two bodies, same person, same body, two people, same body, wandering around with this body, holding down the hatch, battening down the hatches. We were two people, but we were one body. And when she died, half my body went away. It went away. And then all of a sudden I had to go, whoa, I don't know what and who. And it's sort of like twins, but more. So this body, in a way, was owned by my mother absolutely until she gave birth. And at that point, I did differentiate, but I was a different part of her. My personality and my soul is not her, but my body was. And until she died, I didn't know that. And she died, and she went, half of me went, and probably my sisters too. And I had to go, well, I'm going to learn to be a person without another person here. Depending on your relationship with your mother, that could be hard or wonderful. Um, but then after your mother dies, this happens with your father too, and actually with your siblings, you have to learn to be somebody new, and it's very dramatic. So try not to get traumatized by that. Just try to accept I'm now becoming someone new. So that gate, that's why we have so much priestessing. That's why we have birth doulas. That's why we have death doulas. Sometimes people can do both things. But that gate is up to that person with a uterus, that birth gate. They will need a lot of help. They'll need a lot of priestessing. They'll need a lot of people. They need less noise. They need, hospitals are starting to get this, but that's the gate. And then I would also let you know that once you have passed a child through your body into this life, if you've done that, about 3 months later, when they sort of stop being little babies and mostly just being you and not really anybody else, you need to close that gate. You need to do a ceremony where that gate is closed. And if you're overly clingy to your children, or if you're too dominating or something, it's probably because there's the winds of birth are flooding through you and never got closed. 3 months after, if it's been 10 years, it might have done it on its own, but just close it. Get somebody to bless your uterus and say, this uterus is not producing the winds of birth anymore. Because remember, you're also then living in the winds of death, and the winds of death open and close with the help of those on the other side that we call the beautiful dead that help people die, but also by other humans. So keeping that, we're mostly, once we get here and 3 months have gone by and then a year has gone by and we're here for a year, and now we get long periods of 80 years, 100 years, you're going to be living in the summer lands, and we don't visit that gate very often, but it's a good idea to visit it once a year at Halloween. Visit the death gate and just go, yes, I am heading towards death. I'm writing my three-dimensional book, and my death, it will be a beautiful thing. And remember, death is easy. All you have to do is move from one room to the other. That's all it is. And the birth gate, we just attend to and make sure it's closed when there isn't anything coming through that is a baby. Or for me, there's a lot of birthing that goes on in my life, and that birthing is art. So we just want to make sure you're opening and closing that as needed. Even artists need to do this. Artists need to find a time when they're not giving birth to stuff and they're taking long periods to close that gate and restore. Okay? So that's that gate. The magic of that gate is knowing when to open and close it. And biology helps with that. And letting them both be scary, because birth is death and death is birth. So when you're standing at each gate, that's a big transition. And it's okay to have fear. It's okay to have grief. It's okay to have joy. It's okay to be bored. Listen, there's a way in which it's the most intense and boring thing in the world to be around a birth and to be around a death. That's okay. It's okay. Because you're alive. You're bored because you're alive. Because you want to go do Summerland things. And that feeling when someone dies that you shouldn't eat or you should just be in grief all the time is a modern feeling. Someone has died, you're in grief. That grief will last for a minute or two, and then you're going to need to eat. And that's okay because you're returning to the Summerlands. That grief will never go away. You can always visit it, and it always will visit you. But allow yourself to return to the Summerlands. And I don't understand. Don't feel guilty about that. You're alive. Live. And know that you've changed because the person you love is gone. And that means they've taken that part of you with them. Just like when the person that you love arrives and now they're giving, and you're getting to know them, and they're bringing something brand new and spectacular and strange into your life that you never imagined. That's what children are, like these strange, spectacular things, right? So if you practice it with a human animal, this idea that we're in birth, we're in the Summerlands, or we're in death, then you can practice that with other creative projects and creative lives. There's a time for birth, there's a time for Summerland and growth, and there's a time for death. And the door of opening birth and death gates is very important. When you're in the Summerlands full time, don't worry about it so much. But when it approaches, just say, yes, death is a part of this. Yes, I will accept that. I will accept that the way flowers wilt and pets die, and I will die, and everyone will die. In 100 years, all new people, death gate, birth date, death gate. Okay, darlings, that's my little rant on that, because I really want people with uteruses to know that it's all very, here's a painting about it. It's all very old, okay? You were right. Here's a painting. You were right. Abortion is medicine. You have have a uterus. You are a creator. You're a destroyer. Destroyer. You decide. You're the creator. You're the destroyer. You decide what you want to keep and what you don't want. That baby will just, the spirit will just go back and try again or go do something else. But abortion is ancient. Abortion is always happening. It will never stop happening. It's part of our life, a beautiful part of our life. And it's also a right. All right. This is a painting I made when I got mad about the whole thing. All right, darlings. Love you. Um, I hope you enjoy this class. If you got a question, write it in the comments, okay?